All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the To Be Alive podcast. This is Akash, your host, and today's guest is Samek Mulepati. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Probably not.
Yep, that's right.
Good to have you on. How you doing today?
Doing okay. Doing okay. Um, in Seattle, so it's like the days are it's hazy, rainy, sun setting earlier and earlier, so getting used to the winter vibes, settling in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For some reason, every time I visit Seattle, it's in the winter, and I'm like, uh, I'm glad I don't live here, but maybe there's some charm in it.
Yeah, I mean, you get to be cozy. That's the charm in it.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I met you through Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't remember exactly the circumstances of how we met. I think there was probably just some tweets that you put out, and I was like, dude, I vibe with what you're saying. Let's go. And then it's just like one thing led to the next, and then we chatted. I think in May or April last year, or this year, I guess, for the first
Mm-hmm.
time. And I love the way you articulate. Obviously, you're doing a lot of inner work and whatnot, and you would just have a beautiful way of articulating it, and I just really resonate. So I wanted to
Cool.
have you on and just like chat more and get to know you more, man.
Great.
Amazing. So do you mind just like sharing a little bit about yourself? We can kind of just set the baseline of like who is Samek, and I think a good place to start could be college. And if you feel like you want to bring anything earlier from college, you can. But just kind of what's the journey been? Who is Samek?
Yeah. College, that's early days. So started college when I was 17. During high school, I finished my associate's degree, so I had like a 2-year degree going into college. Incredibly, say like perfectionist, like rigid, a lot of self-management, a lot of trauma in the past. So I think my coping mechanism was just to like manage myself to perfection. Went into like UW, University of Washington, did computer science. I think I was the only person from my high school to get into that program. It's like hard worker, very in my head. And my first years of college was in COVID. So I got in, immediately COVID happened. So I was just like hunkered down. Um, remember it's like taking as many classes as I could and like grinding away. It was it was like mentally very tough. I think like you go into college, you're like, oh yeah, I'm opening up and learning more about people. But for me, it was like the exact opposite. It's like I'm depressed, I am sad, I am in my basement at my parents' place studying all day. And that was also when I got into inner work. I think like during COVID, like a lot of people got into a lot of things like running or whatever. I didn't really leave my house and I was incredibly depressed and started watching a lot of Dr. K, Healthy Gamer GG. And like that's when the journey started for me. Um, I read a lot. Even back then, I read a lot. And I remember being depressed and like slightly suicidal. And I like really didn't want to exist. And then it was like, how do I not be this? Like, how do I live from a place of love instead of a place of self hate? And I read this book called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It by Kavil Ravikant. And amazing book. I read it like 5 times, but it didn't really like, what is love? Like intellectually, it doesn't make sense. It is a very somatic, emotional thing. So it became this almost like a koan. Like, what does it mean to love myself? What does it mean to love myself? And I'd ask it like all the time. I journal like every day on that topic. I journaled like the Greek and the Roman definitions of love, like each of them. I would like think about all the people I do care about or respect. Respect was a lot easier for me to access back then. And just be like, these are all the values that they live by. And they're people I immensely respect. So maybe what I can do is just like derive all the values from the people I respect and then live by those values. So during college, I was like incredibly hardworking and basically came up with a set of principles that I made all my decisions by. So like I came up with like five values, which was vaguely similar to the Stoic values. I also read a lot of Stoicism. And then I would just like analyze all my decisions at the end of the day and like basically score myself. Be like, okay, that was a good day. I made good decisions. Oh no, I didn't self manage enough. I was not good enough. You know, it was a very like managey way, but it was way better than how I was before without any direction. Um, but it was like I started getting into meditation as a way of self management. I was like, I got to be mindful so that I know how I am making decisions. So I would like read the mind illuminated and would start meditating. Um, read a lot of Stoicism, and I think like the inner work journey started from that place of self improvement. Um, that was the beginning. I'll start there. If you have any
Mm.
questions,
I'm going to ask a question, and do not feel obligated to answer this if you
yeah,
don't want to. Um, you mentioned that you were kind of suicidal and you had really deep depression,
yeah.
and I'm curious if you remember, if was there like a moment where it like flashed that like I don't want to feel this anymore? Like was it like just like this random moment, or like what was
I
that?
Yeah, that was a great question. I definitely had a rock bottom. Like the suicidality was very like I would say not believable for like a long time. Like I had it like a bad childhood, so like a lot of self management, critical. Like it was there. Like it's like I don't want to be alive, but it was like, but I'm gonna keep living. Like it's not like actually I'm not gonna go kill myself. But I was a big fan of this Twitch streamer named Reckful at the time, and he was this guy, and I followed his IRL stream. So like he was going around in Japan and wherever country and like making a bunch of friends, and I would kind of like feel this like very autistic. I wasn't autistic, but like it was like a sense of like familiarity and like connection whenever I watched him. And during COVID, like the beginnings of COVID, like he was incredibly depressed, and he would go on Dr. K, and he would basically be interviewed, basically coached for like an hour. I think Dr. K made like seven episodes with him. And after like the seventh one, like a few weeks later, like he killed himself. And I saw it. Like I saw it on Twitter, I think. And it broke me. Like I was in the middle of like my artificial intelligence class. I was taking a class on how to do backpropagation in AI. And I like logged off Zoom, and I was just bawling my eyes out. And that month was like suicide didn't become this thing, but like there was like an aspect of hopelessness that seeped into it when I saw someone I admired kill themselves because of their mental health. And that really seeped in, and like, I was in bed a lot, and it was COVID. I didn't really leave my house. And I think like I hit rock bottom. Like there was an experience of like, wow, like I don't want to fucking be alive. And then from there, I think what got me out of bed was I was reading Stormlight Archive at the time, and the story of Kaladin really like motivated me. And I was like, if I have nothing to live for, then I'm free. Then I can just like fucking like figure this shit out. And like, what do I want to live for? Like, I want to live a life I enjoy, a life I love, even if I don't know what that means. And then that like kicked in the motivation. Like, was the start of my journey.
Wow. Wow. So was that like I'm curious, what's that felt experience? Is that like because you're kind of in this you described it as like hopelessness. You
Mm-hmm.
see someone you admire kind of uh, commit suicide, and then you get this kind of jolt of life. It sounds like
Yeah.
did it feel like there was energy where there wasn't energy? Like what was it like? I don't know if
It
I'm asking the
was,
question right.
yeah, that's a good question. Um, it was a very like self-managing way. Like it was a very exhausting way to like it's like I'm gonna fucking force my way through this experience. Um, I would say like it definitely like formed some sort of like narcissism to be able to get through it. Which I've like let go of a lot throughout the years, but it was like so much emotional pain, and reading all these books. Like Stoicism is a great way to form. By narcissism, I mean like putting myself above people,
Right.
just like a form of like, oh, I'm better than you because blank. Um, and it was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be someone worthy of respect, right? I'm like taking myself up. There was like a way of avoiding pain, even if it was for in service of a good cause during that time. Like it was something I needed, which was I needed to create a mask. I needed to be a little narcissistic. I needed to like put myself up, avoid my emotions so that I could get to a place where I could let that go. And reading for me is like a lot of Stoicism, like Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, along with a little bit of love, along with meditation, a lot of fantasy books with a lot of like main character energy. Like I formed this like beautiful mask of like this hyper self-reliant, stoic computer science engineer guy. And yeah, I like plowed through college. It was great. I feel like there was like slight bipolar in there of like whenever I was in love relationships, the mask would just fall away and I was this like incredibly helpless kid
Mm.
who had a lot of pain that he hadn't felt through. But whenever I wasn't in a love relationship where I had to be emotional, like I was this perfect, every moment managed, every time blocked. I was taking a lot of nootropics at the time. Like I was that guy who like I think learning about what was it at the time? I was watching Peter Attia like before he got popular, and it was like the in a way like before Brian Johnson, like the don't die
Yeah.
kind of philosophy of like optimize everything, manage everything kind of approach to life, which very heady, incredibly effective for whatever it was, but very much like a denial of life, even if I hadn't admitted it. It was like not to be alive, it was to be dead but perfect. It was like the approach to being alive, which, served its purpose for what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's so beautiful, man. There's something about like this. There's these concepts like narcissism that gets thrown around as like, oh, don't be narcissistic. But I'm also coming to realize in my own journey that like there could be a time and place to step into a version of yourself that society might look at as like, oh, this is unfavorable. You shouldn't do that or whatever. But we kind of have to. We have to like put the training wheels on and do the thing before we can take it off type thing.
Yeah.
As long as you're kind of conscious going into it, or maybe you develop that like consciousness later, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. But at the end of the day, it's like for you, it sounds like it was about you got some semblance of like control, even
Yeah.
though control isn't a good thing. You know, Joe Hudson would be shaking his head, but like it's maybe what is necessary for you to at least just get out of the ditch,
Yeah.
and that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. And then there's like the host post college journey, but that was the
Perfect.
beginning for sure.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to go into next. So I think we have a good sense of you in college. What happened after college? I know you worked at Meta for a while,
Hmm.
but I'd love to hear in your own words.
Yeah. I think I was like incredibly successful for the very particular narrow definition of success I had defined. I was working during college at Nordstrom as a software engineer, working as a TA, working as a computer science instructor, while also taking classes for the entire year. Good income, very fulfilling. And then right after college, I got into Facebook, where I worked for 3 years. But like the deadness has started to set in, like the emptiness, like the feeling of being really empty inside has started to like set into life. So I was like incredibly intelligent, but also like incredibly curious as a person. And I was learning about all this stuff, but like emotionally, I was like, something doesn't feel right. And that was very like apparent for me right after right after getting into like basically your dream job, right? I was working in Meta coding and programming on computer graphics. I was like hand tracking and like creating virtual um, like interaction systems in VR, which is like I'm basically doing game dev and being paid software engineer money. Like I would fucking made it in terms of making it, whatever that means. But life felt empty, and I tried like things. I was like, how do I fill this emptiness? Now that question comes up, and I started like dating, like tried to do like the pickup artist thing of like go approach girls on the street, which I did. Like, I think bunch of rejections, bunch of dates. We let's go. Did not I did not enjoy that. I mean, I did enjoy it for it was a game. It felt fun, but it's like kind of like creates a more rigid ego structure. It exacerbates the narcissism that's already there, and it doesn't really fill anything. Like there's like the emptiness like is an emotional thing, and I didn't really know what to do with it, so I was just exploring. And I met this friend who started at Meta around the same time as me, and he had just done a 10-day Goenka Vipassana retreat, and he was so emotionally attuned, but also a little bit crazy. And I was like, this guy's like a fucking mess, but like he doesn't feel empty. Like he feels like he's here and like emotionally there, and like he has figured something out, and I don't know what that is. So I started being friends with him, and I joined a Buddhist sangha. It was called Clear Mountain. Still there, amazing people, and I started learning about Buddhism, and it's very orthodox Theravada Buddhism. Like they're in the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path and the Five Hindrances and the 37 Factors of Enlightenment and I don't know the five khandhas and the 12 chain of dependent origination. Like it was very like lists and structure and managey, but it was wisdom. Like the wisdom was there and I could feel it. And I was part of a community and it didn't feel empty. Like there was something here and I didn't know what it was, but like it was like I was getting a taste of, I would say, freedom. I was taste of something and I wanted more. And around this time, I had a 2-week trip to Nepal, and I got sick during that trip. Like I was sick for 2 weeks when I was in Nepal. But when I was in Nepal, what happened was everyone remembered me from when I was like 8 years old and I lived in Nepal. No one like knows me. Like this 21-year-old guy like comes back. They're like, oh yeah, Samek, like we took care of him when he was 8. And I was sick for 2 weeks and everyone unconditionally loved me and took care of me. And I had a nephew at the time who was like 4 years old there in Nepal. And he would just come cuddle with me in bed. And it felt like my heart just like glowed, like lit up in this bright feeling of love and kindness. And I was like, whatever the fuck that is, like, I don't give a fuck about everything I've learned, everything I've done, all the fucking bullshit. Like, all of this is nonsense. Whatever that is, that's what I want. So I went to Nepal. I was loved for 2 weeks straight while I was sick in bed all day. Like, I was legitimately not in bed for like 2 days, and it was the wedding that I went for. Somehow I made it out and was able to go to the wedding, like family wedding. And then I was in bed again for like the rest of the week, and then I went back. It's like a 2-day travel back from Nepal. And I'm just like, fuck everything. I'm community, love, connection. Previously to that, I didn't want kids. And I was like, I want kids. Like, what the fuck? Like, I want whatever that was. None of this other shit matters. Like, pickup artistry, stoicism, all bullshit. Fuck this shit. Like, I threw it all out and started like looking. Like, I became like I was in search, but like now I had a direction. And started going to the sangha, like the Buddhist sangha consistently. Went to meditation groups. I read a lot about more esoteric stuff. Didn't really understand any of it, but like I was like really like consuming like a lot. And around my 22nd birthday, I felt a really strong calling to do a Goenka Vipassana retreat. And I signed up, and that was almost 2-year anniversary, like around this time in 2023.
And what's going up Vipassana for anyone who doesn't know?
So it's, I would say, like the only like free retreats around the world. So they're all over the world, and it's 10 days of silence. And they teach you at the beginning, they teach you like a couple of techniques, very simple. And Vipassana is like an insight practice. So it's a very specific insight practice that this guy named SN Goenka teaches, and it's like Burmese Buddhism, very Theravada, like very orthodox as well, like similar to any orthodox religion, very regimented and strict.
Got it. Okay. So you got a calling to go to your first one.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
So this is like when the story gets interesting. 10 days is a long time. 10 days of silence is a lot. And I've been meditating now for like 4 years, like starting from when I was 18 till now. And I started getting a lot of, I would say, like wild, quote unquote, like not like materialistic reality experiences while meditating. 4 years in, like consistent practice has an impact. And mostly like whenever I would sit with a group, like a group of people meditating together, it would have a really, really strong impact on me. I remember one time my entire body disappeared, like my map of my body disappeared. And then like my tongue came back and I felt like I was choking and I had a panic attack while meditating. And another time, like there's like the sound of silence that comes up when everything goes quiet. And I had heard about it, like the nada sound. If you just focus on it, it gets louder. So I focused on it. But then it started getting so loud that it sounded like a gunshot right next to my ear. And there's other times where like there was a lot of just quiet and peace. And I was having a lot of intense experiences while meditating. And I'd done like a 2 day retreat, but it wasn't really that
Did
impactful.
you did you have any like map as to what was happening, or were you kind of experiencing these as novel for the first time?
Novel for the first time. I had no fucking idea what the fuck was happening.
Wow.
So I think I also didn't have any concept of awakening. So like two little pieces. I was
Yeah.
intensely curious. I'd memorized all these lists. I was intensely curious. I had a path. I had in a way, for me, like a pointer to something I wanted to experience. But I did not have the concepts of like getting to a place. I didn't have goals,
Which
like
is probably why
like
you're able to get
specific.
to those places.
Yeah. Luckily. Yeah.
Wow.
So I went into Goenka Vipassana not knowing shit with like a daily practice of 30 minutes for like around 3 or 4 years, with like weekly sits and a lot of just classical Theravada Buddhism knowledge. And it hit me, man. Like it impacted me a lot. Um, I would say intellectually I'm very capable and I'm a very like intuitive guy. So everything Goenka Ji said landed. Like it made complete sense and it all felt like words that were pointing to experiential things and I could see it. Like it's like, oh, like how does this technique work? Oh, this makes sense. Like everything was just clicking, 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 clicking and it was so fun. Like I remember it being incredibly painful. You're sitting for 12 hours a day minimum or not moving. Like everything is in pain. Like you're just burning. Like the moment you sit, your knees are burning, your neck hurts, your back hurts, everything hurts. And I found it so fun because I was learning so much. I felt like I'd never learned so much in my life was the experience. And you talk about each of the things like the four Brahma Viharas and all the other lists. And then when he talked about um, the 12 chain of dependent origination, which I think is in day 6 of the first 10 days you do. Um, he talked about it in a way that like clicked for me that felt like the answer almost. Like what he said was like, there's the 12 chains of dependent origination is like how the suffering or how like consciousness is created. And then the part he talked about that hit me was like 6 sense gates, which is like, touch, see, feel, taste, hearing, like thinking, like the 6 gates, makes contact with external reality, and then Vedana arises. And Vedana is valence, like positive, neutral, or negative, like sensations, reactions to contact. And after there's Vedana, there is clinging. And after after clinging there's like goes in the circle. I don't quite remember it off the top of my head, but what he said was like that's where the chain can be broken, where if you're able to be with positive, negative, and neutral sensations without clinging, without like aversion or craving, then there is no like rest of the chain. Like there is no birth, there is no suffering, there's none of that. It just like disappears because every sensation is impermanent. Um, they like I think the main topic or the main thing you focus on throughout the practice is anicca, which means impermanence, and you're noticing the impermanent nature of all phenomena, all sensations. Like if you look at anything or feel anything for long enough, it will disappear. And I like got that, like I saw it happen as I'm body scanning, which is one of the techniques they taught. But what I also got was like this thing of like, oh, if I just be with my sensations without aversion or craving, then I will be free, is basically what I heard. And then I modified the technique, which they tell you not to do. But I was like, I figured something out, which was what I noticed was my mind was going crazy. So it was like thinking, 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 thinking. But every thought I could trace into my body and find out the sensations associated with it. So like I would have a particular thought and the thought is trying to avoid a sensation. But if I just like, it's like, what would I have to feel if I couldn't think this? Like ask a question similar to that, it would just take me to my body and like maybe a tension in my heart or like tingles in my privates or like anger in my fist. Like it would take me to my body. And what I realized was if I was with those sensations when it took me to my body without aversion or craving, the thoughts would disappear. Like the sensations would just melt away and the thoughts would disappear. And like the last 4 days of the retreat, I got incredibly excited by this. Like so excited. I was like, oh my God, this works. And the reason I say this works is I remember having this one thought around like this girl I was seeing at the time. I couldn't stop thinking about her from the first day till the 6th day, non-stop thoughts, like endless. It was so torturous. And then what happened was I like traced that to my privates, felt like pleasure. I was like thinking about her in a sexual way. And then the thought disappeared and it didn't come back. Like it didn't ever come back. It was gone. And I was like, oh my God, I can do this with all my thoughts. So I'd wake up at 4 a.m., sit, body scan. Whenever a thought would come up, I would be like, where is this in my body? Be with that and with equanimity, without aversion or craving. Watch that thought disappear. And I would do it nonstop till like 10 p.m. Like 16 hours. I would just nonstop doing this technique over and over and over again. And like things started fucking happening, dude. Like my sensory clarity skyrocketed. Like everything became incredibly sensitive. Every thought became incredibly sensitive because I was doing that practice so much. Food became amazingly delicious. My vision went from like narrow, self-managed, rigid, like this to like panoramic for the first time. Colors became vibrant. Everything just like fucking blew open was my experience. And it just kept getting better. And I felt like I figured out the answers to the universe. Was like the experience of the retreat. And then I remember doing the metta, like the last day of the retreat. You do like loving kindness. You send loving kindness to everything. And everything became love. Like it was just like everything's love, I'm love, and just like gratitude everywhere. And it was really incredibly intense and amazing. But I also didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And what I was doing was letting go continuously every single moment for 4 days after I learned that part, that like small technique. And the retreat ended and I left and I was like, I would say forever changed, but that was just the beginning. Cause when you like do a technique nonstop like that, like your brain doesn't stop doing it. It's like habit. You're like doing it from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. It becomes like this thing that you're just constantly doing. I'm gonna pause there.
Wow, that is amazing, man. It's funny because in my own personal journey right now, I'm just at the place where I'm becoming curious about the origin of my thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
because I've done all this work, and my thoughts are just they just keep coming all the time. Like
Yeah.
there's just this. I'm just trying to like right now placate my thoughts
Mhm.
in a way. Um, so for you to stumble into this is wild to hear.
I
So
got lucky. Like I don't even know how that came to me, but yeah.
yeah. So you did this retreat. You went back into the world. I'm curious. I mean, first of all, I'd love to hear like what came after that, but also specifically curious how you kept this practice alive while in the world. With you're in like in a sterile environment when you're at a retreat, but like when you're now in the world and there's energy everywhere and distractions and all these things and obligations and responsibilities and all the stuff you have to pay for, or whatever, people in your life. How did that translate to the real world?
Yeah. So I will say it I was just gonna finish the story
Sure.
because I didn't continue this practice. Something bigger happened. um so I think it was like a day after, like a day or two after the retreat. This was continuously happening nonstop. So the second day after the retreat, I was like, I'm gonna go see the monk from the monastery that I knew. And I was like Pike Place Market, where he is still, I think, who does like alms round, like getting food every day. And I parked in a place that I probably shouldn't have. Went to gave him food, had a conversation. It was like a very like he didn't really say anything. That was very informative. I felt high, like completely off my bonkers. Like everything is so clear and pristine and beautiful. And then like after, talking to the monk, walking with him, I went back to go see where my car was, and it had gotten towed. So it wasn't there anymore. And what happened was I had thoughts regarding like, oh, my car got stolen, which is a very emotionally intensive thought. And I would say my entire ego structure came online to protect me. Like
Mhm.
everything came online to protect me. And I traced it down and I let it go.
Wow.
And everything dissolved. Everything was gone. Like it was pristine nothingness. Like it was amazing. And then
This is why you're just walking around or what? Like, where were
yeah,
you
I
when
like
this
walked
happened?
back, saw that my car was not there. Had like it got stolen, it got impounded, like the thoughts come up. But those are very like, I don't know, like emotionally intense thoughts. And before this, I had a very strong ego that would protect me from any strong emotions. So what happens when those thoughts came up was like my entire body, like my protective ego structure came online, like, whatever, all the strategies I would generally come up with. But as they came online, I was running this technique. So I felt a lot of intense sensations come up in my body. I went into my body and I let it go. And yeah, like that was it. Like I would say like I can almost say like that was the day I died, like the feeling, like the
Yeah.
experience of like or let myself die. Like I let go of like myself, whatever that sense of self was. Um and there was no sense of self for like the next 6 hours. It was just being. Like things were just flowing. Like I remember things are still happening. So I remember I was with a couple there and they took me to the impound lot and I paid the $200, got my car back. I went on a date with this girl. Things were happening, but like there was no me that the things were happening to. It was just things were happening.
Yeah.
Um, and that night, like I couldn't sleep, and my ego started coming back online after like 6 hours of being. And every time a thought came, it would, as soon as it came online, it would dissolve, and it was terrifying because I'm like now like it's the ego's coming back, and now I'm like I'm not here. What's happening? What's here? Who am I? What the fuck is going on? I thought I was dying. Like I thought not only was I dying, I was already dead and I was coming back alive, but I was also dying. Like it
Yeah.
was like weird experience. And I didn't know what to do. This is like 3 a.m. at the time. And I emailed a bunch of people sounding like a lunatic because I just had an awakening experience. And I don't know how to explain that. Like, there's no words to describe it. Sounding like a lunatic, and none of them, are going to reply. It's 3 a.m. And then I called 911 because I'm like, I know how to stop. I got to stop this process. Maybe they have like sleeping meds or like something to like put me out so this doesn't keep happening. Because every thought I had would just go away. And I'd have like, it's like, I'm going to die. Feel the sensation gone.
You
My
couldn't let
parents
this.
are going to like, be sad. Feel the sensation gone. Who's going to take care of my cat? Feel the sensation gone. Like, I was letting go of things that I didn't want to let go of. And it was just happening. And it would just disappear into like perfection. It was nice, but also like terrifying. So I was like, I'm going to call 911 so they can stop this from happening. And I called 911. I sounded like a crazy person. So they called me an Uber to the ER at like 3 or 4 a.m. And by the time I got to the hospital, like I was back into like, I was back into being, let's say. So I was like incredibly calm, incredibly energetically sensitive. And it felt like everyone I was talking to was stressed. It's 4 a.m. at an ER. And they would just like calm down in my presence. And I'd try to explain whatever the fuck was happening, but they didn't really understand. They brought like a social worker in and he's like, you got to go talk to a monk or something, bro. You're fine. They sent me back home. And then I got home at 5 a.m. and I went to work the next day thinking like, I guess everything's fine. It was not fine. And then I started pendulating like incredibly hard for like the next like few weeks, months of like a lot of trauma, a lot of shit, like everything that I've like held in, all just coming back out in this like garbage dump. But I'd also now had this experience of like none of my thoughts are believable. Like I don't believe any of my thoughts. They're just stories. Time felt very now. And like the past felt like empty. The future felt empty. Like all my memories felt empty. Empty as in like not real. There's like feeling of transparency in it. Um, so even the trauma as that was coming up, there was a level of transparency, so I was able to be with it. But still, it was like hell. Like I felt like I had this amazing bliss awakening experience, and then I was dragged to hell, and that was like that time for like a few months of just being in hell, while
Well,
also staying at my job.
yeah. What? I mean, how do you like? First of all, thank you for sharing so much of the intimate details of this experience because I've never talked to someone who's like able to articulate their inner world to this level of nuance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really really cool for me to hear this. How did you survive in the world? Like go worldly obligations. Like there's no sense of self, or you're pendulating between. Like
Yeah.
what was that like? And did you have any sense of like what to do about it?
Nope. Figuring it out still. I don't know. It was like 2 years ago. So I remember I was like, I need therapy. Like that's for sure. So I like got an IFS therapist because I'd heard about IFS. Did that for 6 months. I read a lot. Now I had like access to the jhanas pretty easily. So I read like Lee Brasington's work and was like basically like meditating 3 hours a day, mostly to dissociate, mostly to like bliss out because it was so painful to like, it was so overwhelming to be with myself for a
Yeah.
while. And I didn't know what to do. And then I signed up for like a Dhammasukha retreat because I heard like they teach, it was an online metta retreat, like TWIM, tranquil wisdom, insight meditation, where you access like open aware jhanas. Um, and like things were starting to settle down, like quietly settle down. Um, I remember during the twin retreat, I accessed like J1 through 4, but it was quite boundless. Like none of them felt contained in any way, if that makes sense. Like it didn't feel like there was like a constriction. I don't know how else to describe it, but like J1 is like pleasure. You like feel intense pleasure in your body. J2 is like contentment. I would say no, it's like happiness. Like you feel really happy. J3 is contentment, and J4 is like this peace, this
Mm.
quiet, endless peace. And for me, during the metta retreat, it felt like I was in an ocean of cold, empty peace. And still working at the time, still doing everything at the time, but like having done that retreat and like accessing peace, it was almost like something loosened. I think like throughout those first 6 months, like I had this intense fear of being alone because it felt like I was going to die at any moment, basically. And then as I meditated more, as I accessed these like really peaceful, blissful places, slowly like that tension, that fear like lightened and slowly let go. And then it just like became okay. It's like there's not really anyone here. Like there's not me. Like there's not like that like constriction of like I am Samek. Like the feeling of being behind my head, like a constricted ball behind my head was not there anymore. But there wasn't fear for it. There wasn't this like fear that I've died anymore. They were just like, oh, life is, and that's okay. Like there was that experience. And then I like settled down and continued living life. And then I found art of accomplishment and I was like, more emotional work. So I started doing that and started cleaning up, basically cleaning up all the shit that was coming up. Yeah.
Is that where you are today?
Yeah. So I've done, it's like things sped up after that. Like, it's like once you have so much internal access, once you have access to like your memories going all the way down to childhood, once you have like access to this boundless consciousness, like you can do a lot of inner work a lot, like much quicker, because you don't get stuck. You don't get stuck in the stories as much and all of that. Um, I took like Art of Accomplishment, a lot of their courses. I took Masterclass, did their year-long program. I did a forgiveness retreat, which was really, really fruitful. I feel like I had a lot of trauma and a lot of like, say, ways in which I held grudges against my parents. And like it was a 9-day forgiveness retreat with Dhammasukha. It's like I forgive myself for not understanding. I forgive my parents for not understanding. And I cried so hard, like throughout most of it. And I was like letting go of so much like grievances I had with my parents.
Mm.
This was after masterclass where I learned how to access my anger and my own boundaries too. So then like I was able to hold boundaries with my parents, forgive them for all the ways I was hurt because of their actions. And I remember like coming home at the last day of that retreat and seeing my parents like they were human for the first time, like just normal people. And I was like, wow, like holy shit, this is the fucking work I want to do. Um, this is like the work I want to do forever. This is the work I want to be in service to. And continued just doing that. I quit my job in April and just like dived in like head first.
Beautiful, beautiful. Can I ask you about or rather, I have a question first about, you mentioned earlier you had this narcissism,
Yeah.
right? I'm curious, how did your relationship to that evolve or change or dissolve over the last couple of years?
Um, I mean, like comes and goes still. Like it feels like whenever I'm in the place of narcissism, I guess, like a place where I'm putting myself above, it almost feels like there's like a thin, like I'm like skipping on the water of my body, like skipping on my emotions. There's like a thin layer that shows up somatically where I feel like I'm above my emotions.
Mm.
And nowadays, like it's very transparent, like it's very empty. So it's like, oh, I'm being narcissistic right now. I'm like putting myself above people right now. And just the noticing of it dissolves it and then like the emotions flow. But like over like that happened over time. At the beginning, it's like hard to notice. And then it's like you start gaining the sensitivity whenever I was doing that thing of like putting myself above people. It's like, oh, I had an awakening. I am better than you. Have done all this work. I am better than you. Like the moment, like anything, like it's like I work at Meta. I am better. Like anything at all that was doing that was like creating this like almost like a plastic film over my emotions, and like I started becoming more and more sensitive to whenever I did that. And when I notice it, it dissolves, and then I I get to work through the emotions that film was protecting me from.
Mm, got it. Okay. I can only conceptually understand what you're saying, but it makes sense at that
I mean, it's
level.
generally like a simple question would be like, if I couldn't, if I couldn't be better than this person, what would I have to feel?
Mm,
And it just like slowly takes you down to the body.
mm, mm. I like that. I like that. So when you were working, like I'm just there's something about this work thing I'm very curious about because like how do you function doing your normal work, working with people, going through all these profound experiences that you're literally realizing in real time.
Hmm.
How did you show up at work?
I don't know. I don't know how I did it, dude. I was like there for like a year after that. I got like I just had my performance. I had my performance review at the before I quit. And I got like exceeds excellence for the year. So I like wasn't even performing bad. Like I did great. And I'm like, what the fuck? How did that work? I don't even understand what's happening. Um, it's like there's like multiple things, or like I'm coding from instincts without thoughts. So I'm not having thoughts. I'm just like coding what I can code. Um, Relationships were incredibly difficult, like work relationships, because now like I could feel like I was so much more sensitive to the dynamics at play. So I felt incredibly helpless whenever I was at work, like at the office. Um, and at the same time, like I felt like I got carried by like I'd created this like very like perfectionist self-managed person. I think like Enneagram type 6 kind of like identity of like, I can make this work is was like kind of the identity. Um, and I feel like that carried me through like last year at least of like I had habits and I just kept to the habits, and the habits were great for performing well at a big tech company. So it just like continued to carry me through, but at the same time I knew I wanted to quit. So slowly the habits started falling, and then like beginning of this year, like a lot of the habits dropped, and I started like, what is it? I started um, partitioning my work basically to all the other people on my team, and eventually I quit my job in April.
Mm. Do you have other people to talk to, like who kind of understand the depth of what you just shared today?
It doesn't feel like I didn't at the time, um, and it doesn't feel like that big of a deal.
Mm,
Yeah,
got it. Got it.
I remember there's this guy on YouTube named Charlie Abrams. I'd watch his videos, lovely guy. And I just emailed him, and he became like one of my close friends. I invited him to do the connection course with me like last year, and like we've done that together. And we like talk all the time. It was like, and then I make more meditation friends, like friends who've had awakening experiences, had I don't know, like have deep practice. I feel like I'm friends with Steven Zerfis, the guy. Feel like I know him quite well. I've like talked to him a bunch. The guy who started Journey.
Mm,
So I have like friends in the meditation world, like quite a few friends in the meditation world.
okay.
But it doesn't feel like a big deal. Like it feels like something that will happen even if you're not doing meditation practice. Like if you just keep doing inner work, like eventually you see that your thoughts are just thoughts, like they're not you. That's just something that comes with time. So it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like a big deal.
It makes it kind of I'll be real, it makes it hard to like think of what questions I want to ask you because I'm like there's probably a layer that you're seeing through of like every question.
uh,
It's funny. No, it's funny. So okay, I am curious about like now that you left your job and you're, how old are you again? Do you don't mind sharing right now?
24.
24 at the moment, right? At
Mhm.
this. So how are you kind of approaching each day? Is it just a matter of like, what is it that's arising and you're just kind of following the thread that's there versus like trying to plan out the next year of your life, which I'm sure it does not work anymore, but maybe it does. I'm just curious, like, what is that for you?
Yeah, that's a good like that. Those are the types of questions I'm asking myself now. Um, I feel like goals are just good. Like there's a form of like having an intention even when you're doing a sitting practice that brings into alignment like all the parts of you that need to be aligned for that intention to unfold how it will. And goals feels like a bigger intention for your year or your life or months. And I have goals. I just like think of goals and I kind of forget them. It's like, oh, I want a life I deeply enjoy. I want to start a coaching business. I think we've done a couple of sessions together. Um, I want to have a sustainable life with coaching. I want to have relationships I deeply find fulfilling. So I have like intentions just like floating out there, and then like things come, and I feel like the intentions allow me to ask the right questions, and then the asking the right questions makes it so I get to step into identities that are in service of those intentions, and things just like unfold. Is generally, yeah, my experience.
Mm. I love how you said you step into identities. So like
Yeah,
you decide like I want to play the role of X today. I want to be a coach today. But
yeah,
that's not something you carry with you
yeah.
outside of
It's
that. Yeah.
That's great, well put. And it's like everything like you get to hold. You get to be a bad guy if you need to be at the moment, and you get to drop it. You get to be a good guy. You get to drop it. You get to be kind. You get to drop it. You get to do whatever, and none of it sticks. Like none of it stays. You can just it's like traceless. Like
Yeah.
it's you have the freedom to be anyone,
Yeah. It's freedom.
but at the same time you have your own. I have my own qualities. I have my own traumas. So I am an instrument that's in
Mm.
service in this particular way, whatever way that is.
Did you ever get any kind of like visions or anything like that of like the future, anything whether it's related to you or other people? I'm just curious.
I've had like really intense dreams. Um, that are really cool to analyze. Like, I read a bunch of Jung earlier this year. After I did like the Art of Accomplishment projections retreat, and I got really interested in shadow work. So I read a bunch of Jung, and like dream analysis is like a big part of it. And when I have dreams, I can analyze it and like get the information my unconscious is trying to communicate. But I generally have access to my unconscious. So like I don't have intense dreams all the time, only if I'm ignoring what it's saying, obviously, right now. Like if I'm ignoring it for long enough, I'll have an intense dream that's basically reminds me what my unconscious is saying. Um, so I don't think I have very strong visions or dreams usually. It's just, I don't know, just normal life.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing you mentioned about dreams, like I've also started to realize the same thing of like there's a texture to a dream when I wake up from it that to me is
Mm-hmm.
almost more important than the contents of the dream itself. Because there's
Mm-hmm.
something from what I understand, it's like it's pointing to something with that I haven't allowed to be expressed. And so that's why it comes out
Yeah.
in our subconscious, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly that.
Yeah. So it's like a little pointer of like, hey, there's something here that wants to be felt.
Uh,
Yeah.
or said or done or not
Right.
done. I remember during that time when I was meditating like 3 to 4 hours a day, like I was dissociating a shit ton. Like, I was like using bliss to like not live my life, like spiritually bypassing hella. And I would have dreams like every night where it felt like I would meet like gurus and teachers and people at the cafeteria, and they all say the same thing, like stop meditating. And I would just keep ignoring it.
Dude, that's so funny. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh,
Um, One other question I got for you is on love. So,
mhm,
how would you say you relate to love? Something, and I'll give you some background on the question. In Buddhism, there's this idea of like emptiness, like the true nature is of everything is empty. Um,
mhm.
but love to me has some kind of texture to it. There's a weight. There's a there. I wouldn't even say there's a weight per se, but there's definitely like an energy to it. I don't know how else to put into words. Um, and this is likely because I'm thinking about it from an intellectual perspective, right? So there's an experiential element to this that I haven't yet experienced, but it sounds like you have. So I'm kind of curious, like, what is love from your perspective, really?
Hmm, that's a good question. Um, I'd really like the AOA like definition of like a deep welcoming. Like love is this deep welcoming, and I feel like emptiness is pointing to the same thing. Like it's empty of inherent meaning, so you can welcome it. It's like here in life, and it's showing up like over and over, and it's going to keep showing up, and you get to deeply welcome every aspect to it. Um, the reason that deep welcoming also like hits a chord for me is I feel like love and grief are very much the same. So like my cat passed away this July, and there was a lot of grief that came up, and every flavor of grief felt like a flavor of love, like for all the emotions that my cat brought up in me. And yeah, like love feels like like an honoring like an honoring of the moment. Like love is a deep welcoming of each moment, which feels like grief too. Like every moment, every single moment that passes is a moment that's died, that's gone, and has an emotional residue. And those emotions are like the aliveness, the impact it's had on you. And like love feels like a deep welcoming of each and everything that has passed, each and every identity that has passed, each and every moment that has passed, each and every people experience that has passed. Like deep welcoming of all the emotional experience that that brings you feels like love, and love for someone else is like a deep welcoming of all of them, their humanity, their experiences, all the emotions they invoke in you. Like a deep welcoming of that feels like love. And it feels like in the act of deeply loving, like it is a welcoming of death, like of the letting go. Like that also feels like a piece of it, if that makes sense. And so love can be is really expansive and
Yeah.
is really scary and is really bright and really joyful and a celebration and a letting go.
Yeah. It's like you're creating space for it all to be what it
Yeah.
is, which includes the pain
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the joy and everything in
And the
between.
joy and everything in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So last question for you. And I know since you're kind of doing coaching now,
Hmm.
I'd love to hear your answer to this. So if someone listening is struggling to feel anything,
Hmm.
numb, shut down, overwhelmed, etc., what would you want to tell them?
Like feeling numb is okay. Feeling shut down is okay.
It's so simple.
You get to welcome that too. It's one flavor of life.
Amazing. All right,
Yeah.
Samek. Thank you for coming on, my friend.
Yeah, it was really fun. That was really quick. I felt like no time at all.
I was like absorbed in your story the whole time. So,
Oh,
all right. Well, thank you for coming on, Samek, once again. And maybe we'll run it back in the future. Who knows?
yeah, that would be great.
Cool.